Good afternoon, young ladies.
Good afternoon.
All right, we'll start by telling us your name and your position in the Young Leaders Group.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justine Farrell. I'm the president of the Girls High School Young Leaders.
Good afternoon. I'm Michaela Mathias, the vice president of the GHS Young Leaders.
Good afternoon. I'm Carol Edwards, and I'm a committee member of the GHS Young Leaders.
Good. Okay, now can you remind us of this year's Young Leaders theme?
A diverse society is a thriving society.
Good. Now, you as Young Leaders, you selected your own sub-team, and your sub-team was a diverse society is a thriving society. What inspired this theme?
Well, first of all, in our country, we have many different persons from different countries, different socio-economic backgrounds. Our thought was that if we have all the persons in our country understanding the value of each other and accepting each other, working together, we could have a society that is thriving, a society that is flourishing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can you tell me, Kara, why did you want to become a young leader?
Well, I really liked helping others, especially children and people in the community, and I wanted the society to be very diverse as well.
Okay. And Matthias, why did you want to become a young leader?
Well, I took this opportunity as a learning experience for me, especially. I think that Young Leaders is not only about educating others, but educating yourself, and I think that this project has proven itself to be that so far.
Okay, well, I know the topic is about diversity, and the diversity itself encompasses a lot of background field. Now, how did you approach this topic? Right? What was like the first activity you did?
Well, first we became diverse within the group itself by finding out our innate background. Then we went out into the community.
Right. When we say went out into the community, the first thing we actually did was on Valentine's Day, we visited the Sunnyvale Primary School, where we made personal cards. Each young leader was assigned a name of a child attending the school, and we went home and we made cards which were very personal to us, and we distributed it to the children along with a sweet.
We also took the time out to walk in others' shoes. We took the time out to go on other people's jobs, and we basically did what they usually do in a day. We thought that it was much easier for you to accept and respect someone by knowing what they usually do on a daily basis, so that is what we did.
Okay, and what was that experience like? How did the community respond to that venture?
Well, first of all, my job, I had a day in the life of a sanitation worker. So myself and another young leader who's not here today, we went down to the Public Works building where we started off with the men. We were assigned to a gang. We started in the Bottom Town area. It was, at first I did not know what to expect exactly. But when we got there, person saw us. One of their first responses, somebody asked me, she said, "Excuse me, you guys are on punishment?" So I was a bit startled. So there's where it hit me that this is a job that persons would look down on. If she asked me if we were on punishment, other persons asked what school we were from, but then they saw the logo, so then they realized, and they said that it was a very good thing to see young persons out there taking interest in
Definitely
jobs like those. I also remember when we were at the market area, we were sweeping up that area. A young man ran across and he snapped a picture with us and he said, "See you guys on Facebook." I was like, okay. But it was life-changing, I would say. It was.
Do you think you'll do it again?
I think maybe.
Any of you did any other jobs?
Yes, I went to the mortuary, right? Me and two other young leaders who are not here today. And the mortician, he showed us exactly what to do with the bodies. And we asked him a few questions like if he chose the job or the job chose him. And he said that the job chose him because he really was interested since he was at a young age, because he started at age 14. But he also told us that how when he was going out and meeting other people, he was kind of shy to tell them exactly what he did because they would look at him with all these weird faces and they wouldn't want to continue a conversation with him at all.
Okay.
The thing that I liked about this project is that from an educational background, we dived into the kind of subjects that one would need to pursue these kind of occupations. So it wasn't just like, go to these places and see what they do. It was about knowing, seeing it from an educational standpoint, what kind of subjects do you need to study to pursue these jobs? What kind of educational knowledge, additional knowledge would you take away from it?
And also, the thing about this project was not really to teach the girls to aspire to be, but really to understand the importance of the person. So it was walking in someone else's shoes. It was life-changing for me.
Because when you look at it in society, without certain places, without certain people doing certain things, one can't function regularly.
Yes.
There's a cycle basically, one relies on somebody else to survive.
Exactly.
Good. All right. Now, I noticed one of the other activities you would have covered is that you had a movie night.
Yes.
And you looked at the movie The Color Purple. Any specific reason why you looked at that movie night?
The movie The Color Purple. The movie, it has, I think it's a very diverse movie in terms of understanding the role of women in society and of men as well. Because I remember there was a scene where this guy he had cooked something for her, but he could not cook. I think in society, parents focus on teaching females how to cook. It's a stereotype where girls are supposed to know how to cook and girls are supposed to know how to clean, and he could not even cook a meal for her. So I think it was an excellent choice in terms of diversity.
Yes. I think that we're growing in terms of our society is learning new things by the second. So I think it was very important to show a movie like that.
And in terms of
yeah.
looking at the last part of the theme RBC gave to us, the 21st century imperative, I think these are all stereotypes we really need to rethink.
It's showing a change in society. These days we are seeing jobs that were, as Justine said, stereotypes, chefs, nurses.
Doctors.
Men are actually picking up these jobs. So that's to show how society has changed.
You participated in a march for violence against women, as in Loving SVG. Now, what became of that participation and the rally after?
I think that the march that we took part in by Loving SVG was very successful. The turnout was good. There were a lot of
GHS
our
young leaders were
GHS young
there.
leaders, yes. It was very exciting. We were not only marching for ourselves, but for the many different women who experience domestic violence.
The community.
Yes. We marched from the beginning. The beginning of the march was from the Annisville playing field and it ended at the Calico playing field. We also did a monologue there. We were actually the first presentation on the program. It was very good. Our standpoint was from a mother, an alien mother, and we also took the view from someone who hide their feelings using a mask. So this person basically said, I use a mask to cover my feelings. They bottle everything up. But on the other hand, we showed a mother who experiences domestic violence, and she decided, at first she was a bit, frightened. She didn't want to tell anybody. She was afraid that the neighbors will talk. But eventually she spoke about it because she decided that she wasn't only doing this for herself, but to enlighten other women who experienced the same thing. It was very successful. We were well received. So that was our match.
Okay. In the terms of marching, sticking with the marching team, we also participated in the persons with disability society for disability.
Yes.
And tell me, what was participating in that march like? How was the experience for you?
The experience, again, I would say it was really something. I learned a lot. At the march, we were in charge of collecting donations in a donation cup to aid in the development of persons with disabilities. There were several persons in wheelchairs, persons that needed help walking. We also helped out in that area. Also, it was quite surprising that we saw there was a girl. She was disabled, and she was playing the musical instruments and the guitar, the guitar,
And the
steel pan.
And she was really well at it. I think that was a big eye-opener because we saw that having a disability does not mean that there's an inability to do certain things.
Disability is not inability.
I think that people basically put individuals in a box. If you're blind, you can't sing. And we saw that at the match. Some blind men were actually singing and they were really well at what they were doing.
And it was well received by the crowd as well.
Yes, it was a very eye-opening experience for us as young leaders, because basically this whole journey is a learning experience.
It also, in terms of disability, we visited the preschool.
Sunnyvale Primary School.
YWCA preschool.
Oh, yes.
Right. One of the caretakers there was actually a blind lady, and what was surprising, the manager of the preschool was telling us that sometimes she would put a vest on a child, and the blind lady would feel the child and say, but this vest does not belong to this child. So although she's blind, she is still able. So in terms of we would have said that we went out to different jobs. 2 young leaders also went to have a day in that blind lady's life. So we blindfolded them and they worked with her throughout the day to help to take care of children. If they were here, they would tell you how eye-opening that experience was for them.
But also at the Sunnyvale Primary School, there was this deaf girl, and she was taking part in the songs and also singing our sub-team when we were singing with them. So she was well received in that primary school.
In addition to the YWCA visit, the young leaders who took part in the job interview, who were blindfolded, the thing that they took back was how hard this lady actually works, how hard she tries to make a living. I mean, it's not easy taking a person who could see and blindfolding them for a day, much less this is her life.
Yes.
So we took back how hard she actually works for her money.
Good. Now, in terms of young leaders, GHS young leaders, what has the response been from the school body, the teachers, your peers, and parents? What has the response been like?
They have all been very supportive. We all want to win.
we all want to win. Yes.
Good. Now, one of the activities the school had is that every year they go to on a social sciences trip, and this year the young leaders got the chance of going to Trinidad. What has that experience been like in terms of diverse societies that you're moving from St. Vincent and your experience in Trinidad?
Well, first of all, I was very excited that we were going to Trinidad. Reason number one, Trinidad is one of the most multicultural, multifaceted, diverse countries in the Caribbean. In terms of religion, culture, food. You know, Trinidad have some really good food. But the reason why I say this is because, again, it was a learning experience. We got to visit a lot of different places. We got to see how the society functions with so many different people from so many different backgrounds. Right. St. Vincent, the main religion here is Christianity, and we got to visit a lot of different places,
because
different
one
religions.
of the main things we were focusing on while in Trinidad was religion. We got a tour guide that took us to, there's a temple in the sea. We also visited the Hindu museum. So we learned a lot
We visited
about
a lot of mosques as well.
the Hindu culture. We noticed that in the yards of a lot of persons, there were different flags with different colors. So we asked the tour guide, what's that about? And he told us that each flag represents a different Hindu god. Well, that's what we call them. But what he was saying, just like how we have one god, the Hindus have one god. We did not know that. We would just say, oh, well, the Hindus worship so many different gods. How we have angels, what we would call their gods are actually their angels, which they call deities.
Yeah, deities.
Right? So each flag represented a different deity. There's one of peace. We
One
actually
of
visited a deity, a statue of a deity. I remember his name, Hanuman.
Yeah,
He was a very tall, he had like a monkey face and a tail.
Yes.
They said he was the deity of peace.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yes. There was like coconut shells tied all around him. So they told us that those are like wishing coins for the Hindu persons that
So
go
if
there
your wish
to
is
worship.
granted, then the coconut
You
would be
take down
removed.
your coconut.
So if you notice any coconut starting to grow, that means that your God's not really answering your prayers.
Well, your deity not answering your prayers. But it was very enlightening, and I like that it was diverse as well in terms of education, because we were not just sitting in the classroom learning about the Hindu religion. We were actually there in the field experiencing it.
Yes.
It was great.
Very good. In terms of culture, we also experienced a lot of different culture. We experienced Fagua, which is kind of looks like our Juve, with the different colors and so on. But it's actually a religious festival. We saw it on Monos Island, where they usually take paint and throw it on themselves.
Throw it on each
different
other.
colors, and it is done, I think, on New Moon. That's when it's done, it's practiced.
Diverse society is a thriving society, JHS Young Leaders.
For those students who didn't get to go to the Trinidad trip, realize that you had a Visit a Friend's Church project. How was that?
Yeah, it was very, it was an experience that we don't usually get. We thought that it was very easier for you to understand your religion and your denomination if you know about somebody else. So you could, compare and contrast to understand better. So that was the line that we went about doing this project. We paired each young leader.
Right.
And we went, for example, Justine and I were in pairs, and I went to her church on a Sunday or Saturday, and we alternated after.
Now, can you tell me which experience was the most memorable for you thus far?
For me, my most memorable experience, I would have to say, was the visit to the Sunnyvale Primary School. It really warmed my heart, you know, because at first you go home and you make this card from your heart and you give it to the children along with the lollipop and the free hug. To see them smiling and laughing and playing and enjoying the hug, that was really something special to me, and that made my Valentine's Day really what it was. It was great.
My memorable one was going to the mortician because I got to see dead bodies, and also he followed me through these steps of bringing the body from the hospital to where it was taking out the blood, taking out the organs, and it was definitely one to remember.
My favorite experience was going to Trinidad. It actually showed me being in the class is actually very boring. Stepping out of the class and having the first-hand experience is what makes learning experience really different. We got to see a lot of different things that we were not used to. It wasn't my first time, but a lot of the experiences that I had going to different places, that was my first time going to some places, and that was somewhere that I would want to go again.
Renovating a section of the school and calling it D Block. Now, what is the purpose of D Block?
Well, D Block, D actually stands for diversity, so it would be called Diversity Block. Yes, we are renovating a section of our school. We actually just came from painting D Block. I'm a bit excited.
If you see a photo, you'll know she was painting.
Right, I'm full of paint. Anyway, the concept of D Block is basically creating an area in the school where everyone can go and enjoy themselves. Because entering the girls' high school, especially for a Form 1 student, it can be a bit challenging. What inspired us? We noticed that in the school there are cliques. Like when I was in Form 1, I couldn't go up to the Form 5 section. I couldn't go under the pavilion to say I was going to eat. And we are not allowed to eat in our classrooms. So what we're doing, we're painting it and putting in some benches. So this is somewhere where all students can go to enjoy their lunch, enjoy their break, talk with friends, socialize with different persons. We have rules for the block. So you are supposed to follow the rules to make it like a diversity safe zone. Also, in terms of educational diversity, most teachers, to bring the children out of the boring classroom setting, they would take them outside to this spot so you can have your classes out there in the fresh air, enjoy some breeze, the different atmosphere, you know, you're being diverse. So usually you have to drag your chairs down the step and whatever. We're putting in benches to make it easier for teachers to conduct the classes outside.
And the writing there is going to be in the different languages that we teach, like French, Spanish, and English.
Right. Yes, the block was actually strategically placed as well, because it's right next to a tuck shop in the back, and it's right next to the staff room as well, so we have added security there.
Before we leave, any final word that you want to say in terms of how this Young Leaders Group has been toward you, and what sort of words of encouragement do you want to leave behind, starting with Kyra?
Well, I want to tell everyone that you don't necessarily have to agree with somebody's choice, but you should respect and accept them, because in order to not be boring, like you said, you want to have to be very diverse, and you want everybody to feel comfortable and not condemn anybody.
Yes, I think that this Young Leaders project so far has been very life-changing for me, especially I've done a lot of things that without being a young leader probably I might not have done. even though when this Young Leaders project finishes, my job as a young leader, it doesn't end, because I think that it's everybody's job, young leader or not, to enlighten the public and share different experiences to help the society to become a thriving one, as our sub-theme implies.
Right. My final words, especially for younger kids looking at it. Young leaders is not all fun and games. Sometimes it's very challenging, but always aspire to become a young leader. It is something that teaches you a lot. You learn a lot in terms of teamwork and responsibility. It's big on that because you're in charge of planning a lot of stuff. And also to the general public. If everybody in our society were the same, we would have a very boring society. So thank God that everybody is different, and we need to learn to embrace everybody's differences and accept persons for who they are, although we do not necessarily agree with their choices, their decisions, their values. We still have to embrace it in order for us to have a thriving society.
Because
A
A diverse society is a thriving society.